talk, I want you to forget that you went to school, okay, and keep your brain fresh, okay. And I will be talking terms that from other culture that you cannot understand. It's a very short time. Usually my talk is a 3-hour talk, but within 15 minutes I am trying to finish this. So, I do not need introduction. I have a huge degree thing, and I will tell you why these degrees are useless in a bit. Okay. So, well, this is I want to run through this. This is kind of my the collaborators for this kind of studies what I am doing in Ayurveda and ancient Indian science, but more important is this the collaborators. These are my parents from my home university, and my wife, and so because usually we think that university we have to go to school, it does not matter. I mean, home is the university you learn, and if we miss that school and if you do not acknowledge this, I mean it does not make any sense. And there is a huge inner university where we learn from lot of the scientists, ancient sage scientists, and they are in books and everything. So, they are always surrounding, and these are the two collaborators. Okay, so the separation of the religion and science took place sometime, right? So, when they separated the science from the Christianity, what is left is a culture, right? So, what if you suppose you are in a culture, you pray, you say Jesus, and you are going to eat something. So, if you remove Jesus from there, you will be left with whatever you eat. You will have pizza, and if you want to do research, you will do research on pizza. So, research science is a cultural expression, and so because of this there is no I mean the conflict thesis came because the Copernicus and Aristotle took different paths, and Copernicus took the scientific path, and Galileo further developed what you call now as modern science, but these things happened very recently, very recently. Okay. But the flip side, they have not reviewed there was a science in this world previously. 10,000 years back, we had this university called Nalanda and Takshila. Okay. This the history goes like 3,000 years, but the science has been for 10,000 years, and these are the subjects, the syllabus, right. And they have in different names, but this existed, and remnants of this university exist in India, and all the modern science is possibly lot of things came seeped into the modern science, but into a different culture. So, ancient science contribution, velocity of light, Rig Veda, 19th century, trans-Saturnal planets, Mahabharat. So, these are the Indian origin words, right. So, it is very difficult for an alien word. So, imagine I am representing now an Indian, and I do not know any modern science, but I know English. Okay. So, Rig Veda. So, these are the things. So, how do you make this reference? So, how can you go back? So, you have to know the language. So, it is a problem. So, all these things are in ancient Sanskrit or Tamil. These are the very ancient languages. Tamil is the oldest language in the world, and these two languages has everything, and people are learning and practicing, and the science is hidden in this culture. So, so now without making reference to this ancient culture, I mean people, we are losing a lot of real science that is hidden in this culture. So, imagine this is the 3000-year-old temple structure where they have these 9 planets. Okay. So, so if you 3000 years back, if they had 9 planets with the colors of the planets, okay, then that means they already knew what was in the sky, what was our solar system. So, if they knew astronomy, they calculated. So, Vedic mathematics was there. So, so all this chemistry and metallurgy was there. They transformed one kind of metal into another form, and they created a beautiful architecture that creates certain kind of vibrations. So, all these things exist even today in India, and this is one of the iron pillars, you know, it is there is no rust, it has been for more than 1000 years. So, okay, so this is the science. So, it does not mean you need equations and lot of modern words. Science means it should work. And this is an acupressure concept. So, the chakras and anatomy of the anatomy of the body was well understood more than at least 5000 years back. And because each and every part of the body, they have these points, and today we have been doing some kind of a lot of workshops with acupressure that you skip modern science and these things work. And so, like this, there is chakras and all these things people are giving, we did not know how to give it in a modern way, right. So, that is where we need to bridge. So, I am calling from these people are my scientists, because I am from India and you so far called the Western people as scientists. So, now you separate the Christianity and from you know the science from the Christianity, you are left with the culture. So, I am going to separate the science from the Hinduism, and I will be left with another culture that is called ancient Indian science. Does it make sense? It will have different rules, different kind of constructions, axioms, and will build from there. So, these are my scientists, and you know, so somebody like the guy in the middle is called Vedatri Maharishi. So, we usually do not call guy, because guy is a term very local. So, we call it with respect, okay, it is okay. So, now I can call him the Einstein or equivalent to an Einstein who did a lot of work, and you know I have all this Shivavakya and Ramalinga Vallavar Thiru, all these people through 2000, 3000 years, they have been working, they have been doing some compositions. In one night they will write so much you know books, 5 or 6 books, and are they stupid to write some books and leave it there? Where did this information come from? And people we have neglected these things. So, I am declaring that the Vedas and the ancient Tamil literature, all these people as scientists, or I combine it and I call it scientists. Okay? And in according to ancient this science, all the evolution took place from the Shiva or Brahma. Shiva and Brahma are nothing but absolute consciousness space. From this space, energy particles rotated. So, these energy particles was called Shakti, and from this Shakti 5 kind of elements formed. So, first element was formed when the energy particles were far away, and one is not rotating next to the other, they are independently rotating. So, the dance of this, there is this Shiva itself has some kind of a vibration. So, they called it, represented it as a god Nadaraj. Nadaraj is a term in the god. So, all these gods kind of concept came for it became the religion, but there is a science there. So, the people who have realized, they wrote this science, they communicated with these kind of words. Okay. For the common man, it is the, thank you, common man, it is the religion. So the 5 kind of elements, what are the 5 elements? So you have energy particles which are far away, and when one energy particles comes around another, you will have the first electron system, so like hydrogen, and more electron comes into the path like oxygen and other things. So oxygen and hydrogen combine, you know, they form the water, and water densifies, they form the solid. So 5 kind of elements are formed, and 5 kind of transformation takes place in each element. From the you know, the energy particles, which when they are far away, the transformation taking place in that is called pressure, and the one which is the transformation taking place in the air is called sound. The transformation that is taking place in fire is heat and light. The transformation that is taking place in water is taste, and the transformation taking place in solid is smell. It is complete. Look at our fingers, is 5, our sense 5, everything is 5, right? Sensory perceptions. So everything came from empty space, it transformed into this. So this is transformation theory, there is no creation theory, and that's called, so we have also evolution. This evolution theory was already there. So what is the 6th transformation is mind. So these gods were represented like this. Now they worship these kind of gods, so that become the religious part. So the Shiva and Shakti, they had 2 kids, so they have you know, you see the 2 kids, one with an elephant head. So elephant head represent 5 kind of, because elephant has a trunk, okay, so that include as 5. So they added like 5 legs, and then they looked at the Armugam is the second sun has 6 faces actually. So that represents 6 transformations, and they also parallelly took the Vishnu theory, where the energy particles are rotating and produces sound. So this is the representation of that picture there, and the 4 heads of the Brahma is called time, distance, and volume speed of these energy particles. So how to carry research on this? So one is modern science perspective, another is you know, paradigm shift. So this is kind of why I am going to this suddenly is, this is the level where I stand now, where I can do something with modern science using nanotubes, and I call it Agnikarma nanoneedles. You know, this is a typical modern science kind of thing, but I want to skip this. It's so boring, right? So, so what is science? Science, is it a cultural expression? So I'm asking you, is it a yes, because the knowledge is limited to that kind of a geography or, you know, the locality, and each one will have different kind of knowledge. I mean, the cultures are different, and you know, so it's a cultural expression. So I say that there is a hidden culture in the modern science and a hidden science in the Indian culture. But there could be, which one could be best, we do not know yet. But you haven't known that there is a hidden science in the Indian culture. At least the West should learn this culture. That is what I wanted to say. So the colonization, when colonization took place, Christianity took over, and from Christianity, temples were, you know, the education came, and what happened was it was very fancy. This education became very fancy now. So everybody jumped into this fancy system, and without knowing that there was a science in the ancient Indian culture, and the constitution was designed by the British. So without much modification. So these things are I mean, it may be sound very hostile, but this is the truth, and the cultural values were suppressed by this for the you know, these 200 years, and now people are realizing, what did we have a science, and why are we doing something else? It could be beneficial for the whole world. So let us go back So, how do I do my science? So, I will need some other things. So, I will have new approaches. So, I will have to do literature review. So, when I do literature review, it is not in English. So, I would go to Sanskrit or some other languages in Tamil. So, then I will have to take statistics just on this, and then by interpreters, I will take statistics. If 100 people interpret the same way, then okay, 90 people interpret the same way is good, right. So, that is how I go do my literature review, and I have to do a reference. How can I reference? If I want to present something in modern science, you are asking for reference. Where will I go for reference? Everybody should know English. It is not real. I mean, I have to refer only my books because this is my science. So, I will have to go to stone carving, then somebody translate, you have to know also English and both and the science. It is very difficult thing, but I have a plan. So, these are my references. Do anybody know any of these references? Purposefully I did this, no English references. The last one is unified force. That is the latest person who did something on a translation, who really was realized and did in English. Okay. So, Bible versus the Vedas and Agamas. I am not saying a Bible is great, Vedas and Agamas are right. What I am saying is, one kind of religion is coming from one person, but if it is coming, ideas are coming from thousands of people from several generations, then it is called science. So, science so in this Ayurveda, in this science, we want to build from what is called a Big Bang theory is replaced by this what is called the Veda-model, because Veda is one who gave this the link between the modern science and the ancient science. And I will in Indian ancient science, the ahimsa is the non-violence. Non-violence is do not hurt anybody, either physically or mentally, to the extent possible help others. This is the principle of ahimsa. The science will be built based on this. If it is hurting an animal, you stop there. So, that is how we are building this science, and thought is a wave function. These are the fundamental parameters. So, these energy particles, they are well known. They are saying that these fundamental energy particles which are far away, that comes into the body is called the soul, and they have rotation clockwise and anti-clockwise. Depending on that, you declare it is a male or female, all these things. So, bridging the gap, where we can bridge the gap is when the fundamental energy particles become become the atoms and molecules, it is going to be the same structure, but the axioms are very, very different. So, the empty space creates formative dust, and the kinematic quivering and penetrative self-compressive force, this itself is the gravity which compresses, and from this secondary energy particles are produced. So, these secondary energy particles are shadow wave particles, and they are called biomagnetism. This has been described several thousand years ago. Okay. So, these are how, based on these Panjabhutas, the constituent of our body, depending on this, I am saying Panjabhuta are the 5 elements, right. Depending on that, you can do a lot of treatments. So, each person will have either these combinations. So, if your earth and water is combined is too much, the energy particles are too much earth and water, you will have kapha. You are called dosha, it is called dosha, it is bodily humor, right. So, that parameter is called kapha. And if you have fire body, more fire body, you are fire type, very warm, right, it is called pitta. And vata, if you are very energetic, right, like me, I am a vata type. Okay. So, this is a book where I am going to describe these things, and the main 3 core principles are I already mentioned. So, this suppose if the energy is in E is equal to h nu is the equation. So, but for everything I am saying a banana is different from a mango because of the frequency. So, according to ancient science, it is just the frequency. The Planck's constant, like Planck's constant only is mentioned for the light, like that we have all other things have constants, only the constant is different, frequency frequency varies. Okay. And this is like if you balance the 5 kind of doshas, look at the equations. if earth plus water, all like 6 kind of you have tastes. So if all the tastes are balanced, it goes to 0, you are perfect. I mean, you don't have problem. Otherwise, you will have problems. So this is the equation. So I have this plan for the government to put in some money for ancient science and some NGO, because people won't, the modern science won't give money for these things, the federal government. So this is asking the Indian government to put some money, and the NGO comes from all the Gurujis, the ancient Gurujis. Let them put the money, let the money come there, and we can form a curriculum, and then we form the holistic science of India. This is a 50-year plan, and it takes a lot of effort, and you know, this is the goal. You completely a green science starting from scratch, but it's already there, you know. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Dealing with this talk in the detail that it deserves would be a very long project, so I will restrain myself to noting that unless I misread the slide completely, a number of the dates you cited for ancient Vedic sources were predated by several thousand years the arrival of the Vedic culture in India and the development of Sanskrit as written language.
Sorry, please could you repeat? Please, could you repeat the question? Could you repeat the question, please? Oh, yeah, I didn't.
It wasn't a question, it was a comment.
Okay, okay, sorry. Sorry.
Could one thing, you gave us a lot of information. What would be the one thing you want us all to take away?
One thing is we need to understand there is so much potential in other culture also, and we have to bridge the gap. Bridging the gap is important. We need a framework. The modern framework is important. So we need the modern framework, and the Indian system, the science is really good. It is going into the base. It is constructed from the base. There is a truth there, and if you have a modern framework, it can reach the entire world.
I just had the pleasure of visiting Maharishi University of Management, which you probably know about, and saw some interesting things in the past couple of weeks. Could you comment on the Ayurvedic tradition of levitation?
Well, see the levitation principles and all these kind of anomalies, we have been also trained in astral travel and all these things. Okay, it is from a different perspective we have to understand. It is kind of you have to go to these kind of axioms to understand what is really a levitation. Is it against gravity? Is this the physical body or it is some other body? So that is, you know, so there is a mixture of superstitious things, and some things are really a science. So if you understand that, then you have to be in that plane. So you will know that, okay, which one is actually levitating, what does it levitation means. So it is binding the physical. Ancient science also is binding the physical laws. Actually, in the modern science, some of the laws it binds. For example, gravity is gravity. But you know, so to that level I can answer, you know. But we can discuss if we.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks.